my pretties. It's the Lion Queen here. So, today you're going to be listening to 5 AI generated creepypastas that are Disney themed, whatever it be a lost episode of a TV show by Disney or a lost movie creepypasta on Disney. These are all generated by Story AI that I'm using. I'll put a link in the description down below for any of you guys who would like to try this out. Now, with that being said, let's begin.
Once upon a time, there was a mysterious, unexplained dark twist on the beloved 1991 Disney movie, Beauty and the Beast. No one knows how it came to be, where it came from, or who is behind it, but the only thing that existed was the form of one lost movie. The movie itself was never considered to be an official film, nor did Disney ever acknowledge it to exist, even when people who were once behind the making of the film seem to never remember actually making it. Thus, it remains a mystery. The film's title itself was not Beauty and the Beast, but rather The Beast Within Beauty. It begins much like the original movie. The same narrator is heard telling the classic fairy tale, but as the story progresses, dark and sinister details appear that were not in the original. The beast does not transform into a handsome prince, but instead is tortured and mutated to a twisted creature. It's pale, almost like skeletal fin appearance, and its eyes have a dark and menacing glint. It leans menacingly over Belle. Its arms were outstretched, as it was beginning her to love it. An unexpected turn of the events, the beast does really messed up stuff and monstrous and violent stuff, leaving Belle to the corner sobbing. Despite the love that Belle had claims to feel for him, the occasional acts of kindness towards it met with violence and hostility. The is seemingly endless, and its disturbing dark twists. At the finish of the movie, the beast is defeated with even a more darker and disturbing manner. Belle finds a way to control the beast, and it turns it into her own pet. She bathes it in sulfur for days, and eventually leading it to its death. The movie then ends with Belle happily living in the castle, with the beast's body in a tow. The lost movie has never been seen again, a mystery that may never be solved. Its dark twist on the classic Disney movie will remain a chilling legend for years to come. Story number 2. It had been nearly 30 years since the release of Disney's classic animated movie, Aladdin. Although widely regarded as one of the most beloved Disney movies of all time, there was something that no one knew. A secret and a lost version of the film that had actually been produced. The story of this lost version of this film begins shortly after the film's release, where it was said to have a single VHS copy had been given to an unnamed employee at the Disney Studios as a reward for their hard work on the film. This employee, who wished to remain anonymous, never meant to share this story of the lost Aladdin film. However, after having watched the film, it was clear to them that this version had major differences from the final version featured in the theaters. Jasmine was the hero, and it was her who defeats her oppressor, Jafar. In this version of the story, Jasmine is one who manages to outwit Jafar using her witnesses and bravery to outsmart him. In different to the moments of the story, we see Jasmine leading the charge to save Aladdin after he is banished into the Cave of Wonders and subdued for the Nature's magical stuff. She had also manages to outsmart Jafar when he tempts her with the lamp and presents her with free wishes. In this version of Aladdin freezes on the magical cliffhanger when Jafar, how the mighty Sultan, tries to kill the unconscious Aladdin with a powerful spell. The film ends with the surprised Jafar realizing that it's not even his magical powers were enough to stop Jasmine, who drives him between him and Aladdin to save him from a certain death. Although it has become one of the lost Aladdin film, despite the fact that the film hasn't been seen in ages, its story still lives on in the hearts and the minds of those who remember it and the dream about it watching it one day. It's this lost Aladdin film that continues to step into the spirits of the original Aladdin alive. Story number 3. The Fox and the Hound remains one of the most beloved Disney animated films of all time. It was released in 1981 and it was instant classic. But exists a dark and twisted version of this film that the public has never seen. Although the dark corners of the internet, a creepypasta about a lost movie version of this film has been circulating for years. The story goes is that there was an alternative version of The Fox and the Hound made in the early 1980s which had a much darker ending. In this version, the hunter has successfully captured Todd and killed him. Copper, out of revenge, attacks the hunter, but gets brutally maimed in the process, leaving him dying from his deep-seated wound and blood loss. The fox, who had been bravely taking on the hunter, eventually loses his strength and courage and slinks away, unable to save his best friend. In this version of the movie, it was supposedly to be so dark that it was never released and was instead sealed away, never to be seen by the public. The unintended are warned to stay far away from this unreleased version of the movie. It is said to bring a deep sense of dread and sorrow to anyone who watches it. And to this day, this lost version of The Fox and the Hound remains a mystery. Story 4. The Little Mermaid was a movie released in 1989 by the Walt Disney Company. It had been beloved by favorite among moviegoers of all ages. However, what a few knew was that there was an alternative version of the movie, the one that had never been publicly released. It began nothing more than a creepypasta that spread around the internet, although it was treated with nothing more than just an urban legend. It had never been the same way as the original, but with much more darker tone. Ariel was still head over heels with the love of the Prince Eric, but instead receiving a happy ending, her dream of becoming human was instead a death sentence. The climax of the movie saw Ursula taking one final form and launching a powerful spell at Ariel that she was unable to escape from. Ariel's body began to swell, as if it was being filled with some sort of dark energy. Finally, with the last gasp of her breath, Ariel's lifeless body fell onto the beach. The outcome of this alternative version was that Ursula had won the battle, proving that her ruthless nature had been correct to one to hold. This was the version of Ariel's dream to becoming human had ended in a tragedy. Although this alternative version of this movie had been leaked, it was never been officially released to the public. All that was ever known about it had been circulated as well as a creepypasta, although that was enough to cause nightmares for many. It was an ending that had been deemed too dark by the Walt Disney Company, so they had kept it hidden and away and out of sight. The only way anyone would ever know that happened was by believing all the stories that had been circulated over the internet in the form of a lost movie creepypasta. The legend of the Lion King lost movie began with an old VHS tape that was discovered in the jungle of Pride Rock. It was an old 1993 release of the film, with the title of the art being A Dark and Somber Lion King. On the tape was an old and forgotten story of how the Kings of Pride Rock unfolded before the viewer's eyes. The movie begins with the same familiar opening scene where a little lion cub is brought up by his father Mufasa. But something was very off about this version. The colors were deeper and the characters seemed darker in the release of the version of the film. The strange vibes continued when Scar, Mufasa's brother, started his diabolical plan and eventually killed Mufasa, sending Simba into exile. During his exile, Simba had many visions of his past life, but there was one scene that really caught my attention of many of the movie geeks. In the scene, Simba had a version of Nala, his love and eventual queen, and she was talking about how unhappy she was forced to uphold the laws of Pride Rock and maintain the status quo. But she was just about to utter her words in rebellion, Scar killed Simba, leaving Nala devastated without her king. The movie then continued with Nala leading the pride in Simba's steed and leading the pride to a new, better future. The movie ended with a glimpse of the Lion King and Nala together, bittersweet reminder that the two were never meant to be. Since the time it had been discovered, the tape had been lost. It remains unknown if there was a copy of this now infamous lost movie still out there, or if it has been lost forever. But the legend lives on to this day and greatly adds to the mystique and depth of the beloved Disney classic.